I'm home, and I love it. I'm home, where I belong.
It's always nice to come home, but many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Making home affordable from the U.S. government has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners like these. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home, where I belong.
Sheriff Dave Phalen. This is a weekly program on LSN Television, Channel 9, Time Warner, and also our radio friends at WFCO Radio 90.9. This is really the first week we brought this to television. We've been doing this program for about 9 years at 90.9, and with the help of J.T. Burcham and Fairfield Christian Church and the folks over at Time Warner, we are now starting to broadcast this also on television. So it's a whole new dynamic, and certainly I welcome you, the visitors, each and every week. We're going to have a great program. Typically, I have guests from within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, sometimes outside the Sheriff's Office, talking about things that are going on within Fairfield County, about crime, about a lot of different subjects. This week, our guest is Phil Johnson. He's our jail administrator, and good to see you, Phil.
Good to see you, Sheriff.
And Phil came on about the time I became sheriff, now into our 11th year. Mm-hmm. And so Phil oversees the jail. And for our viewers and listeners that may not know, tell us a little bit about the facilities we have here in Fairfield County.
Well, the jail facilities here in the county consist of 2 buildings, Sheriff, as you know. The Main Street Jail was constructed in 1966. It's located across the street from the Hall of Justice. And our second facility was a renovated Kroger building. It was renovated in 1995, and it's a minimum security jail, and we hold male and female prisoners in that facility. And it also holds the radio room, the 911 center, and patrol supervisors are in that facility as well. And we're preparing to open a third facility out by the prison, and that's going to be referred to as the Fairfield County Jail Annex, and we're going to have about 90 to 100 prisoners out there.
Now, 3 facilities will be in place at that time, and certainly that can be very difficult to manage that kind of a prison population. And how many prisoners typically do we hold in other counties?
It varies throughout the year. Currently, we have about 70 out of county. We've had as many as over 90, almost 100 at different times, but probably average between 50 and 80.
Now, with the new annex that's going to be opening up out at Southeastern Correctional Institute in November, that's going to take care of the overcrowding, right?
That's going to allow us to bring back all the prisoners that we currently house out of county. As you're aware, it's very expensive to house prisoners out of county, and we're going to be bringing those back and housing those out at the annex out by the prison.
And for our listeners and viewers, we are spending over $1 million a year now to house prisoners at other counties, right?
That is correct. This year, through the end of August, the county has spent about $770,000 housing prisoners out of county.
And you know what I find really remarkable is when I became sheriff now about 11 years ago, we would have about 100 prisoners, and out of that population, maybe 8 to 10 would be females. And today we have, 250 plus, and anywhere, 50, 60 females?
I think today we've been averaging between 45 and 55 female prisoners. It's up substantially than it was, 8 years ago, where we had 10 to 12 female prisoners. But yeah, it's really grown. That segment of our prisoner population has grown significantly over the last 7 or 8 years.
And I think that many of our listeners and viewers would be surprised that over half of our jail population is addicted to heroin or opiates.
The drugs and alcohol specifically, the main reason a lot of people end up being arrested, a lot of it can be contributed to abuse of alcohol and narcotics. And a lot of the narcotic problem is related to either heroin or opiate type of drugs.
Yeah, and I talked to our detectives, and they say today probably 85% of our theft-related offenses, I'm talking about where they're breaking in cars, burglaries, those kind of things, are supporting drug habits. Individuals involved in those crimes, the reason they're doing it is to sustain their drug addictions.
Right, and if they're not being arrested for theft or robbery because of their drug habit, they're involved in other crimes because they're under the influence, whether it's driving a car or they're involved in some sort of altercation where they're assaulting someone or there's been some sort of dispute or robbery or what have you. It is a major problem in the county.
Now, what type of programming do we have for our prisoners in the jail?
We have Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
And we also have a very large number of volunteers that come into the jail as part of our jail ministry program that minister and counsel the male prisoners and the female prisoners. And also we have GED classes for the prisoners. So if a prisoner hasn't graduated from high school, they can enroll in the classes and try to get the classes they need so they can get their GED.
Okay, so there's some programming there, and because I would think that to be incarcerated and not a lot to do, that can be problematic, and if you have the overcrowding coupled with that, that's just not a good mix, is it?
Right, and it is problematic because one of our challenges in the jail is the lack of facilities to hold programming. And our main jail, there is no space that we could hold and conduct any type of programming for the prisoners. But at the minimum security jail, we hold some programming that we do have in the dining hall area for the prisoners. So we're glad that we have that space.
Now, within the last few months, I know we started doing some things with the TV programming, and that was a situation where up until maybe 6 months ago that we would have a television. They would have televisions in the jail area. Prisoners would be watching a lot of different shows, and maybe they'd be watching Oprah or Jerry Springer or something. And at some point, we said we need to start controlling what the prisoners are watching. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that television programming that now the jail inmates have?
Well, once we decided that something that we need to do, we did some research, found out how we could do it, got with Trio TV, and they came in and helped us set up the technology and the equipment to where we can control what the inmates watch on the TV. So it's a little complicated because we had two buildings a mile apart, and that took a little work. But whatever someone is watching in one building, everybody's watching it, and the supervisor in the jail controls the channel and makes sure that there's nothing inappropriate being shown on TV, like a show that's really violent or maybe has some sexually provocative material or content on it. We won't allow the inmates to watch that.
So the idea is some of the videos that we show are things like on drug addiction, 12-step program, employment, positive kind of things that are going to help them while they're in jail.
Right.
And movies too. We try to have some uplifting movies that we've shown.
We show some. We have some. We have a collection of movies on DVD that we do. They're wholesome. We show those in the evening, and we also show the recovery, alcohol and drug type recovery programming as well.
And I think of all the things that probably we've done, and you've made a lot of great changes in the jail since you've been the jail administrator there. As far as at least what I heard from the public when we put that in place, people were saying, hooray, we need to do those kind of things. And I'll have to give my wife, Mrs. Phalen, credit there, because she is part of our jail ministry. She goes in Thursday evenings and ministers to the female prisoners. And one day she came home and she said, Dave, it just seems to me that you could, while they're there, while you have them for a number of months, that would be a time where if the TV's on, well, there ought to be something on there where they're getting something out of it. You're teaching them, you're talking about addiction, you're talking about citizenship, you're talking about how to get a job. And then if you're going to watch a movie, you're going to be watching The Blind Side or something that's positive and uplifting.
And that was a good idea, and credit goes to Loretta.
Well, credit goes to you because it's easy to get an idea, but sometimes it's hard to get them implemented, and you've done a good job there.
A good team effort. So,
any complaints from the prisoners once we started that?
Actually, very little.
Yeah.
Certainly you always get a few complaints from prisoners, no matter what you do, but it went pretty smoothly.
Phil, we're going to have you back next week, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you handle problematic prisoners, the medical part of the equation, the fact that you've got to feed the prisoners, all these kind of things. And we'll talk a little bit about the need for a new jail, and also the fact that we're going to be opening a third facility, the jail annex, in November. I appreciate you being here, and like to have you back next week.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And again, for the folks here at LSN, Time Warner, Channel 9, I appreciate the opportunity to have this as part of a television program. We've been doing this on the radio for now 9 years at WFCO Radio 90.9, and it couldn't be done without the good folks over at Fairfield Christian Church, T.J. Burcham and the group, letting us use their great studio here at Fairfield Christian Church. So it's a great partnership in the community, and our hope is that as we go through this, you, the viewers and listeners, are going to learn more about what's going on within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, about crime trends in our community. We're going to have detectives in to talk about cases. We're going to have some of our people from our 911 center, our communication center, talking a little bit about what goes on in our radio room. And the clock on the wall says we've got to go. So until next week, same time, if you're out there, buckle up, God bless, and we'll see you right here next week.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.